Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episodes of Birds on a Blue Note. Today we have a special guest, Kyle Reis. As you know him on Twitter, he's the famous prospect guy. So welcome aboard, Kyle. We appreciate having you on for this episode.
Hey, it's my pleasure, guys. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, no problem.
Course.
Pretty exciting stuff. So I'm going to kick it over to Zach first. I know there's a couple guys he really wanted to talk about in the prospects. We're doing another prospect special episode today, so go ahead.
There's a few guys I really want to start targeting. First one, obviously, has to be Quinn Mathews. I think we kind of touched on the last time we talked on here, and dude had two starts, and we're like, whoa. Uh, you never know that early in the season whether it's just going to be it's kind of fluky or what's going on. But now he's through the 4 games. Last game was 6 innings, 13 strikeouts, 3.2 innings, 8 strikeouts. 5 innings, 11 strikeouts, 3.1 innings, 6 strikeouts. I think it's like a 19 Ks per game strikeout rate. I know he's added 3 miles an hour to his fastball, so he's sitting about 94 and 93 at Stanford. And I hear now he's 96, 97. There's only really one good video that I've seen on him. I don't know what's different, but what's your guys' take with Quinn? I mean, that might be the fastest growing guy through our system this year.
He's just impressive to watch. His most recent start, and I did put out a bunch of GIFs, but in his most recent start, the thing that was most impressive is he didn't really need his fastball to dominate the Fort Myers lineup. He really just toyed with them once he got through the first couple innings. It was an interesting juxtaposition because right now Palm Beach has a ton of really interesting starting pitching prospects. Another name to get to know down there is Chen-Wie, the tall Korean, super interesting pitcher. And I'm only bringing up Lynn because Lynn throws the ball between like 94 and 96 with his fastball. But hitters make contact with that pitch. They sit on it a little bit. It measures out okay. I think he doesn't do a particularly good job of masking his pitches. But to watch Quinn Mathews be untouchable, basically just going fastball change for a little bit and then incorporating his breaking pitch against lefties and righties,
Which is
kind of
nasty.
yeah, it was nasty. He owned the strike zone, and once he got into that start a little ways, he knew, and Palm Beach put up some runs. He knew that he could just toy with that lineup, and that lineup has not just younger players or foreign-born players that are younger. It has collegiate players, and that's huge. So, I don't think much has changed from his release point. He's definitely re-engineered some of his off-speed and some of his breaking pitches. That was not only adding velocity this offseason, but re-engineering those pitches a little bit. Those were big for him. So we're seeing the results. The other thing worth mentioning with Quinn Mathews too, and all of the data is good, all the velocity is good, but just remember that some of the dominance is happening because this is an advanced pitcher at the low A level. Now the Cardinals will get him up to double A or to single A, high A soon enough. Can't come soon enough, honestly. And then we'll start to see a little bit of an adjustment. And see where he goes from there. But yeah, look, he's exciting. I've been re-ranking my prospects all day, and I don't know how I can keep him out of the top 10 or top 5. So
Yeah, that's someone I actually had highlight as well. I mean, opponents are only hitting 115 against him. And he's got like a point. His whip is under 1, so it's not like he's getting fluky results like sometimes you see from like a Kyle Gibson up here in the majors. Like, how does he keep getting it through 6-7? He's throwing 92 right down the dick, and he's like, no one hits it. But yeah, he's like from what I've seen, which there isn't too much available online right now. But he's just been like you said, he's been toying with the batteries. He's mixing in the off speed really good, and the fastball has been like, I think people. I think the batters expect the faster pitches now because they know that he's got the higher velo, and it allows him to play with the off speed a little bit more to make him look foolish. So
He has
uh,
kind of a weird deceptive delivery as well. It
yeah,
kind of seems like he kind of hides it behind him and he just kind of sling. It's like a weird kind of sling motion. The other weird thing is he has a game with 4 walks and a game with 5 walks, but then he has two of his biggest strikeout games. He has zero.
yeah, and
So
those are the only walks he has on the season too, or those 2 games.
exactly,
You can tell they've been building it up too because he went 3.15, 3.2, and then this latest start he went 6 with the 13 Ks as you mentioned. It's just I expect him to fly up like Kyle said, I expect him to fly up the rankings really fast, and like if he continues dominating like this, I wouldn't be surprised he's top 100 prospect by the end of the season. But
I wouldn't
it's
be
still early. It's April. You just based on the stuff and like how he's looked, it's been super impressive.
I wouldn't be surprised if he's rock steady in AAA by the end of the year. With some certain injuries, you never know. He's already 23, so there's history where guys have been pushed through whenever they have that much success. Obviously, like you mentioned, he's old for his level, so you never know how that success is going to translate. Really, once he gets here to Springfield, we'll really know. But man, that's a fun one to kind of keep an eye on.
I like to, one thing I'm trying to do is get out of the habit of saying old for a level. And we know that it's important that players are age appropriate at their level, but what he is he's experienced for the level. That's the main difference, especially since baseball kind of re-engineered, minor league baseball re-engineered after the COVID season was lost in 2020 and minor league contraction. They're still catching up. That's happening, and now because of so many the loss of the short season clubs and so many of the foreign-born players kind of being thrown into the low A level. It's not so much that he's old for the level, because I don't necessarily, even though the age range will tell you at 23, he's probably a year too old, maybe a year and a half too old for that level. He's just experienced enough. There's other 23-year-olds, like maybe Jose Davilla, who's probably 22, who isn't too old for that level because he has the right amount of experience. And I think that sometimes, especially when we're looking at the data, when we're looking at statistics, when it comes to prospects, we're trying too hard to match up age levels when really it's experience levels that are the difference.
Yeah, and I think that's just part of the game in general, like as a broader thing that people look at, because you look at guys from other teams that are flying up the rankings, and like Jackson Holliday over in Baltimore, he's 19 still, and he got his cup of coffee in the major league, struggled really badly, and like people like to talk about Walker struggling, but he's still 21, like, and they expected him. Before I rant too much on that, I think the fan base expected way too much from him at this age, because he did lose that season, and like he's still really young. But yeah,
Yeah,
like I think that's just like a baseball, like it's broader, not just Cardinals fans, but like across the board, people, the way that they're promoting prospects these days.
Yeah,
Expect a lot.
absolutely. I like, for me, because I have a certain responsibility, I feel something that I'm trying to do, because especially with data, like for instance, Kyle Leahy got blown up tonight. Kyle Leahy is
Yeah.
not a major league pitcher, but you'll have people who will look at the data and say, oh, he has major league capability. He just needs to not throw his fastball. Well, no, he's not a major league pitcher. He doesn't have the command for it. He has the old school mentality where if you just throw a pitch, no matter how good or how bad it is over the middle of the plate, that's good enough. And it isn't good enough anymore in Major League Baseball. So it's important that we isolate data when data needs to be isolated. And one of the data points is age. So, regardless of what's going on in the rest of the league, hopefully those prospect writers and those prospect people will take on a responsibility that it might be lacking,
Yeah, and especially when someone's like drafted high too, they just expect people to fly up through the rankings really fast, even if they are young or like they don't have the experience, as you said, to be ready. But yeah, jumping on another guy, I kind of want to talk about. I always say it wrong. Sem Robberse,
Reversa.
Robersa. There we go. Now I know it's I actually said it right for me. But he's been super impressive over in AAA. I mean, he's about as impressive as Quinn Mathews has been in A, but in AAA, I mean, 1.82 ERA, is 20, almost 30 innings, 30 Ks. He's got a .91 WHIP as well. And he went 5.5, 4.2, 8, and then 7 in his last two starts. They built him up nicely down there. I expect him to be pushing for probably like a major league stint near the second half of the season. Am I wrong?
Go ahead, Zach.
I would think so as well. They pushed him last year, even going to AAA after we traded him for him. So they've been pretty aggressive with him since we got him. So in my opinion, I think with what he's putting up, I think what's he have, like a 1.8 ERA without looking, or something close to that?
Yeah, 1.82.
1.82. I mean, that's dominant. So yeah, I think there's a good chance he's up, especially with the rotation the way it is. If a couple of these old guys get hurt, we're going to need some innings, because he's consistently throwing 6 as well. So.
I mean, if Steven Matz keeps Steven Matz, like,
yeah, that's what I was just about ready to say. I don't see why Robersa wouldn't get Matz's next start. The issue with Robersa is his fastball it's trash. It's a trash pitch. It's not major league caliber in any capacity. So he's going to have to rely heavy on his cutter and his slider and his changeup. And the question is, will the Cardinals at the major league level be willing to only allow this kid to throw his fastball maybe between 15 and 23 on the high end % of the time? Because if they're not going to let him feast with his cutter slider combo against righties and the cutter slider change combo against lefties, then you don't bring him up because he's going to get hammered, because you have to stay away from that fastball. That's been the big difference. That and attacking the zone. Last year when he got brought up to AAA, he did not attack the zone until his last 2 or 3, maybe 4 starts. We saw him start to have results. That first start this year, he kind of, pardon my language, he kind of dicked around the zone. But he's definitely relaxed into the zone, and he's throwing his fastball 20% of the time at most, 21% of the time. And that's saved him. That really has saved him, and he's had amazing results because of it.
I don't think that should be an issue in the majors too, because if you look around the league, like a lot of starters are toning down the fastball usage. It's a lot more. The sweeper is like the big thing right now, but there's a lot more off speed being used like at a higher clip than ever before, I think. So
yeah, I remember a couple of years ago that kind of became a thing where the new mantra is throw your best pitch more. Like if you throw a good curve, throw more of them. Like I didn't remember that being a thing until about 4 or 5 years ago. A few teams like the Reis and so on just kind of changed the game with that. So
yeah, the Oakland A's 2 decades ago were really quiet about it. Like we got Hudson, we got Zito. They're just gonna throw their best pitches as often as we can have them throw it, and they'll use their fastball because they had good fastballs. And then other teams didn't do that. And then, like you said, over the last 5 or so years, it's definitely picked up in baseball. And here we are 6 years after it became popular. The Cardinals are finally starting to employ it.
Yeah, I mean, one of these guys has to work out, right? Like we've kind of had some shit luck when it comes to top pitching prospects the last probably decade. If you go back between like obviously like an Alex Reyes and Carlos Martinez and Jack Flaherty, who shoved against us today.
Shelby Miller.
Shelby Miller he was a tough guy. He threw for us though. We appreciate Shelby Miller today. He threw for us.
Nice sleeper cell, baby. Sleeper cell, sleeper agent. We love it.
But and you were talking about this before we started recording, but you're actually keeping track of the Markavian Hence start today. So I'm gonna let you take that away, Kyle.
Oh, he made it through now. Since we've been talking, not only has he made it through the 6th inning, but he made it through the 7th inning. So this is the first time that he's last. Yeah, exactly. The first time that Markavian Hence has lasted through the 6th inning. Only the second time in his career he's ever made it into the 6th inning. He made easy work of the Tulsa Drillers, which is the AA affiliate of the Los Angeles Dodgers. He made easy work of them in the 6-2, struck out a guy, got some weak contact. As I'm watching what happened in the 7th, as I'm talking, he got a double play to end the inning. I don't know how he got his first out, because I'm talking to you fellas. Let's see if we can find it real quick. It was a strikeout, of course. He struck out Jose Ramos. So through 7 innings tonight, he had 11 strikeouts. And his fastball, the last strikeout came with a breaking pitch. His fastball was up in the high 90s, between 96 and 98 all night, dropped down to 95. It was the most impressive start that isn't associated with Quinn Mathews in the organization so far this season.
Well, I mean, Tink Hence did have that one he started. Was it 5 innings, no hit, the first one? But yeah,
this is 7 innings. Like you said, though, this is 7 innings, 2 hits, Tink Hence. I mean, that's an A star. I mean,
yeah, we've talked about him on our last episode, but this is the guy I also projected to maybe be pushing for a roster spot later in the season. But they've been really slow with building him up too. And you mentioned like his fastball being in the high 90s still into the 7th, which is good because I know in his last start, like as he kind of got into the later innings, it dropped off quite a bit. So
I think a lot of that was because the injury late in the year, though, too. They were actually pushing him more and more, and then he just got hurt. So there's nothing you really do about that. But I definitely agree.
Yeah, just for a little clarity there too, it was a combination of a pec and a finger issue last year for him, and he could never really get his stamina up because of that. But even then, like the whole plan last year, is my understanding, was to be very deliberate with him. I don't think that they were really interested in getting him above 5 innings pitched last year. I think that they would have liked to have seen him get into the 5th more. But they're being as deliberate with him as they can, because every step along the way he's had some kind of injury here or there.
Yeah, and he's like our next guy, right? Like we looked at our last like top pitching guys. This is him, Tink Hence, right? So kind of have to be careful.
Yeah, I'm It's funny. Again, this goes with data, but I am still very high on Cooper Hjerpe. I think that there's a certain amount of polish that is worn off of Hjerpe because he was hurt last year, and because his fastball's in the low 90s when he's healthy. And I think we were just talking about Hence, and I do think that there's a chance that maybe if everything goes well, that he'll be at AAA. You could see the dominoes fall, right? You could see Robberse going to the majors. You could see Hence going up to AAA. And then at that point, with success at AAA, there's a real possibility that Markevian, depending on where his innings are at, finds his way to the majors. I don't know what the possibility is. Like if I were to ask to put a percentage chance, I'd probably say 15, 20. But who's to say what these next couple months are going to look like, especially when you're talking about older pitchers at the major league level and, inefficiencies at AAA between Michael McGreevy and Adam Kloffenstein and even my boy Gordon Graceffo. So anything can happen.
Graceffo is someone I was high on too. He's been kind of disappointing me so far this year, but hopefully he turns it around. It's still April, so
One guy I want to mention as well. What were you gonna say?
No, go ahead.
Is Tekoah Roby. I've seen him probably 12 times now. 10 or 12 times. The dude just gives up so many freaking home runs. Like, he has a good fastball. It didn't play as well as I thought it would, but it's still good 95, 97 at most fastball that I saw. The curve is legit. I've seen it at a couple different angles. The dude just once or twice a game just gives up a couple jacks, but then he just bounces right back. So like each game, eight strikeouts. I mean, not very many walks, but 6 home runs. He has more home runs given up than walks. Exactly.
Yeah, somewhere along the lines, it's funny, his fastball, after the Cardinals traded for him, I went back and watched all of his starts before he found his way to the IL, in the Rangers organization. Mm-hmm. And it was amazing how much barrel righties got on the fastball.
I saw Emmanuel Rodriguez for the Twins, their top prospect, hit a ball out of the stadium oppo against them. I mean, I've never seen anything like it in my life. And there was another ball that was absolutely just tattooed. It's hard contact. Go ahead. Sorry.
So, he's going to need to figure that out, obviously. I mean, we say it obviously, that's something he's going to need to figure out. That's a pitch usage issue, or he's going to need a
sequencing maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, more than likely when you get to high, like that's kind of what separates AAA from AA from the other levels, particularly, is it usually doesn't get down to sequencing at that point. Usually, once the book gets out at the higher levels of the minors, there's a pitch in a person's arsenal that you can hit. A lot of times, a big righty with a big bat will just wait on that pitch, or a lefty, vice versa. And my guess is that that's what gets him. And it's good enough to get through 80% of the at bats, but the problem is somebody's going to run into that pitch. I think that's part of why also translating minor league success into major league success is hard, because you'll see guys jump good pitches because they're basically just sitting on it. So you never really know it's real. You never really know it's fake. But I think that there's just a little issue there. And I think once he can figure out how best to approach those big power righties, I think that will be the next step in his development. But he's a blast to watch.
I also think that if he could start spotting his off speed, then he won't have to rely on the fastball quite as much. But he's so inconsistent with every last off speed pitch as far as hitting the zone consistently that he has to throw the fastball. Like, he's kind of handcuffed into using that pitch a lot more often, just to stay in the count. So
absolutely.
Well, that kind of goes back to what we were saying earlier about the fastball usage. Is like you almost need an out pitch you need an off speed pitch that's an out pitch. Otherwise, people are just going to sit on it.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Yeah. No, that's both great analysis on your parts, for sure.
We wanted to bring up, I guess, another AAA guy, Cesar Prieto. All the dude does is hit. Where did this come from? He was kind of an afterthought in the trade last season, and now he's become possibly our best hitting prospect right now. You hope Walker or Scott figures it back out once after they get
pure hit tool for sure.
Yeah, he's been a hitter since his days in Cuba, and that's what got his attention. That's what was in his game that got major league clubs' attention. I'll tell you this: when the Cardinals made that trade, I actually had somebody from an AL team and also another person from a relevant team, which I'll just leave at that because I don't want to get into it because I don't want to get anybody in trouble. Yeah. Reach out to me and tell me that Prieto was the gem. Like they liked Prieto better than Saggese. They liked him better than Roby.
Huh.
And it was because of his contact tool. Now, at the time, I was unimpressed. He reminded me of Max Schrock, where he could make a ton of contact, played a average to below average second base and third base. And, if he could golf one, he'd hit it over the fence. But this offseason, he made huge changes to his swing and
Yeah, 4 homers already.
he flattened out the swing, got a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger, added some exit velocity onto that swing, swinging with a little bit more intent, a little bit more bat speed. And that's been huge for him. Now we just need to see him settle down a little bit in the box, maybe work some counts here and there, add a little bit of patience to his game. And I think that is a potential for a major league caliber 25th, 26th man if he can continue to show improvements defensively like he's shown as well.
So who do you think is better hitter, pure hitter, Saggese or Prieto?
Well, I guess I would say
I've seen
Prieto.
Saggese, I haven't seen Prieto. Go ahead.
Yeah, the thing about Saggese is he's a lot like Alec Burleson. This is something I've been on.
I love Burley.
Well, exactly, right? So your question is, they both can make a ton of contact, and they both are aggressive swingers. Saggese has power, like real power in his game. The question is he going to get himself into too much trouble? Which was kind of and still is, even though Alec Burleson has single-handedly willed the Cardinals to 1 win today and then almost a second comeback here.
He is trying. The bullpen is not holding it
together. Gallegos is blowing it right now. I have it on above me. Gallegos giving it 2 runs and no outs already in 7th. So
Giovanni needs a Phantom Isle stint, I think. I think that's where we're at.
Yeah.
But
I think Crawford needs that too, though. It's been driving me nuts. Is like Fermin was mashing. You bring the Fermin up and you sit him on the bench for 2 weeks, and every chance he has to start, you start Crawford instead.
Yeah, and he gets one at bat earlier in the day, and he he doesn't crush it, but he hits it out to the left field.
Yeah, he hit it to deep left field. No one else is even making contact. So
yeah, and it's not like Brandon Crawford's out there diving around and making plays. Like the Cardinals are worried about Fermin's footwork is short and his arm. Like Brandon Crawford looks a little. Yeah, come on, man. Like you can throw your hierarchy.
And he's had 2 at bats this game already with runners in scoring position and strikeout and was it weak ground out?
Yeah, I thought it was 2 strikeouts.
So I have a theory.
Might have been 2 strikeouts. Yeah.
My theory on that is that they just won't win to see how he prepares to start and prepares to sit. Just the preparation part of it. That's the best explanation for why we're seeing him once or twice a week every week.
Yeah,
that I could possibly come up with. I mean, frankly.
Yeah. The 2 things that they I know for a fact is they are deathly afraid of losing Mason Wynn. So they're babying him because they know they need him for the full season. And then the other thing is it was exaggerated by the coaching staff, but his back is a little cranky here and there. But I don't think that's going to be an issue moving forward because I
mean, watch him play though, and he is diving around and he's hitting, and you're like, well, where's the back issue? I don't.
Well, if you watch, he's always stretching his back out. Like even if they do the sky high view while the pitcher's walking around the mound, you'll see him stretching, and it's because he does have a little cranky back that he's just trying to keep as loose as possible. It's the kind of thing that you sleep wrong and you might feel it's not that big of a deal, but it's just something that they're being extra cautious with because they know if he has to go on a 15-day IL, they're screwed. If he's going to be out, for 10 days, I mean, for hitters.
Well, we didn't expect him to be our probably second best hitter behind Contreras to this point of the season. We have a lot of guys who need to step it up a bit, but yeah.
Definitely the most fun or exciting player as a Cardinal fan this year, I think, just out of nowhere. And everybody was out. I mean, I think a lot of people, if you really watched, you weren't out on Mason Wynn after freaking a month last year, but a lot of Cardinal fans were. And just to see him take off like this has been so fun. He's doing it in the most exciting way possible. He's so athletic. He throws it. I think he had to throw 98 miles an hour this year already.
Pretty awesome.
Stealing bases. I mean, the only thing we haven't seen is the power, but we know it's there. I think it's just now that he's comfortable, just kind of letting loose on the pitches that on 2-0 that he could just really rip on. But
he almost saved that game against the Mets where we were ultimately walked off the other day. He had the play at the plate, and then he had that turn at second base in the 10th where maybe him and maybe Ellie De La Cruz are the only 2 guys with the arm to get that out for the double play. Sucks that we lost anyway.
Every game,
yeah.
No, for sure. Yeah, right. No, but every game there's something with him where he's doing something to help us win. It's a throw that nobody else can make, where he's getting a guy by half a step, throwing it 92 across the diamond, or it's getting to a ball, or it's a good at bat. I mean, making a pitcher work. So every game he's doing something to kind of help us win. So that's the best thing you can ask a young player to do. Just stay within yourself. But back to it, Zack Showalter. That's been an anomaly for me. I haven't really got to see a whole lot for him, but when you look at the stats, since he got drafted, I mean, they don't lie. Dude strikes out a ton of freaking guys.
Yeah.
So, what are your thoughts on Kyle?
I was really impressed with him the little bit I got to see of him last week for Palm Beach against Fort Myers. I think that this is again like you practice caution with some of these younger pitchers. He's been hurt. He's missed a little bit of time, but his fastball is electric. He doesn't throw it faster than 90. He barely gets to 90, but he can ride it up because of his his release angle, his vertical approach angle. He can ride it up and inside to righties, up and in on righties, and blow it by him at like 88, 89 miles an hour, which you do not see very often. He has a command issue with the slider. He commands it like if you were to grade a slider command, it's maybe 20, 30 if he's feeling it. That's an issue. And I think that his fastball command is kind of trash too. So it's just a matter of like he has a funky delivery, a funky motion, a funky release angle, but he is electric, even though it's not like 99 electric, it's 89 electric. Now, right now they're just working on command with him. They're working on consistently repeating his command and how he throws the ball, the release point of it, and everything with his entire arsenal. So he will, once he gets a feel for it, he'll get up into the low 90s, probably touch mid 90s here and there. But he has a lot of work to do with his command, which does nothing because he's been which does a little bit, but he's been so good even with shoddy command at the lowest level of full season affiliation. And that should tell you that there is a tremendous arm talent there that just needs to be ripened.
So is this a guy you can see like maybe putting on a little bit of like lean muscle and getting it to like maybe to the low 90s, or is this just kind of who he is?
He's a big boy. He could definitely put on muscle. Randy Rosarena put on muscle. He's a monster. I can't put on muscle. Like I've got 3 alcoholic beverages around me at any given moment. So, but no, look, he's a big boy. Like when you see him, he's a strong, big boy. And he can get, like I said, he can get there. But right now, it's not going to do him any good to get there when he has no idea really where anything is going.
No, so like early day Jordan.
You think that has to do with the
velo?
I think it has to do with his release angle is what I think. When you have funk, it's a funky motion. It's harder to control and command what you're doing. Everything has to sync up exactly right, and if it's not synced up exactly right, then you get balls.
For sure. Another reliever to jump on, just because I love relievers coming through, is Andre Granillo. I freaking love him, dude. I've seen him a ton. And the dude just gets outs and he goes multiple innings. And those are my 2 favorite things for relievers. Like he has a really good. I feel like it's a split from what I've seen. It's like a split changeup kind of thing with some good downward movement. But then the slider and the fastball is really, really well. I've seen it the fastball up to 97, maybe 98, but typically 97 is about as fast as he gets it to. So 93, 95 is about average for him. But what do you think on him?
Yeah, the slider is his bread and butter. That's one of the top, a top 10 pitch in the organization. It's such a good pitch. It gets lefties and righties out. He's kind of got the same thing with his fastball and righties. And then that split changeup is just so devastating against lefties. So, you never really know. I've watched so many high throttle relief pitchers come through the organization in the last decade that you think like, man, I can see this guy making a major league debut. Like I don't know what's stopping this guy from making a major league debut. And then they'll make a major league debut and not be anything, or they won't ever get to the point to make a major league debut. I am high on Andre Granillo. I want him to get to that point. I think he's wasting away at AA. I think he should be at AAA. It makes no sense for the Cardinals' long-term health for him to even be at AA. But I still have.
He was at AAA last year.
Exactly. He ended the year at AAA last year. And it's not like he changed his motion or he altered his repertoire. He's the same guy except for more polished as he was at the end of last year. So for him to be at Double A is pointless. It's a waste. One of the guys I've complained about quite a bit, but I think that there's a chance for a major league debut in there, especially if you can stay slider heavy and continue to work that changeup against lefties. And with him, it's going to have to be command with the fastball. That's going to be the big thing.
So I think we're coming up on time here in just a minute. So we're going to let you just kind of freestyle any guys you want to talk about, because you're the guest here and you're the prospect guru. So anyone that we haven't mentioned that you'd like to bring up?
Well, there were
off the prospect list.
Yeah. Being able to watch Palm. What'd you say? I'm sorry.
I said some sleepers.
Well, being able to watch Palm Beach last last week, rather, not last year. There are a couple of guys who really stood out. There's the one guy, he goes by Juan Salas, but he really is Gerardo Salas, a 21, I believe, year old Dominican righty that the Cardinals signed in 2019. He was super impressive in his start last week. Maybe not as electric, 92-mile-an-hour fastball, but his fastball gets good swing and miss. He has a good curveball that gets swing and miss. His other off-speed offerings are kind of iffy, but Gerardo Salas is a name deep down that you might want to get to know just a little bit. I would say again, like, don't get caught up in the stats with Cooper Hjerpe. I cannot stress enough that other than that first start where he didn't make it out of the first, he's been dominant. He's let up like 6 runs in 11 innings or something like that. But he's getting hosed by really bad umpiring at the lower levels of the minor leagues. And you can even see, and this is something that used to happen to Alex Reis a lot, but you can even see umpires who, like, you can tell that they messed up on a call. They'll step back and they'll kind of like shake their heads like, oh,
yeah. I spent 10 years umpiring like men's league, so like I don't know.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get up really quick, you're like, oh no, it's like a thought.
Yeah. So he's on a really strict pitch count of like 60 to 70. They didn't want him to get over 70 because he missed so much time last year, but don't get caught up in the velocity with Cooper Hjerpe unless he's back below 90 again. But if he's low 90s like he's been all year, he is fully dominant. Even like, I cannot explain to you, like, when you watch him, it's like even this week he let up 3 runs in 3 2/3 innings. He got to 67 pitches at the 2/3 of an inning point in the 4th, and he dominated that start. He walked a guy. He let up two light contact. There was some really bad defense at second base. He got charged with a wild pitch that was a pass ball, and all of a sudden he let up 3 runs. Never mind, nothing got out of the infield. And he walked a little bit, but the walks were kind of sketchy. So I'm telling you, I think that there's some prospect shine off of Cooper Hjerpe that shouldn't be there. And I'm going to be fascinated to watch the rest of his season.
Well, that's someone we actually talked about in our last episode too. The guy's got serious swing and miss stuff. Like he's the type of I don't know how the Cardinals project him as like starter reliever, but like he's the type of guy like typically the Cardinals would throw on the back in the bullpen if you need a strikeout like really badly. And that's what I've seen from him early on. Like, I know that the stats don't really match the stuff right now too. So, but yeah, Zach and I talked a lot about him in our last pod about the prospect. So
if they're willing to move Edwin Nunez back to the rotation, even though his fastball's trash, then there's no reason why Cooper Hjerpe shouldn't be a long-term starting pitching, as long as his arm holds up, but starting pitching prospect for the St. Louis Cardinals, especially for a team star for potentially high-end starting pitching. So, sure. I think just a couple other, like Zach Levenson, an outfielder for Peoria, he's really interesting. Juan Bincho's getting beat with high fastballs, which is kind of a bummer, but he'll settle in.
Yeah, his swing's too pretty to not make it to the majors one day. It's beautiful.
Yeah, and his athleticism too,
And he's a good follow. He's very wholesome.
Yeah. Dog content, baby. Give me the animal content.
Yeah.
So, other than me ranting on for the next 25 minutes about every prospect in the organization, those are just the couple things that come to my mind without going too far off of the beaten path.
Yeah, no, we appreciate it too. And I think the last thing I probably want to touch on before we wrap this up is what do we need? I guess Walker, he got sent back down. That's the big one. What do we need to see from him to come back up? Is it just hit, or does he need to hit for power?
I gotta let me take my glasses off for a second and rub my head because this whole Jordan Walker discourse, I find like not I mean it very tongue in cheek, but it's exhausting to me because everybody has become a hitting coach. Even people in the Cardinals organization who shouldn't be hitting coaches are becoming hitting coaches. They don't need to change a damn thing about Jordan Walker. They just need to give him a quaalude, tell him to relax, and stop swinging at pitches that he's never swung at. He's always had an issue with the slider low and outside, but he's never just swung at it willy nilly like we saw him do consistently throughout this year. You'll hear people talk about the hip hinge. That is such a load of shit. He's always had a hip hinge. The only time you ever see the hip hinge is when he swings and misses because that's his kinetic release point. When he steps and he rolls and he misses, that's where the kinetic chain where the energy dissipates. So
I have a question, Walker. In your opinion, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but do you think a lot of his struggles have to do with the changing the stance, changing the swing path, changing the position, all within 6 months, and just kind of pressing at that point?
And being 21, expectations and the rest of the offense not performing too, I'm sure the kid puts a lot of pressure on himself to have a big at bat. 6 runs here is like the most he scored in a week, and we're still losing because, of course, the one game the bullpen isn't shut down. But like all season, Goldie has struggled, Arenado struggled mostly. No one's hitting for power, so I feel like that he pressed too while he was up here because he felt like he needed to do something big every at bat, and he had that line, I need to hit more for more power kind of in his head too.
Yeah. Right. I saw him at 20 or 30 times in AA. Every chance I freaking got because I knew I was only going to get to see him here so many times. His swing is totally different. Not totally different, but it doesn't feel like the same swing at all. It's just, I think it's really hard to get a kid, bring him up and again, change position and immediately change the swing and just, go out there and be the same hitter, same expectations.
This was a top 2-3 prospect in the game, and everyone knew it and he knew it. And then he comes to the majors and all right, you need to do this differently. As opposed to what got you where you were in the first place.
100%. That's my question. Do you think that had to do with it?
I don't. Okay, so his swing is a little different, but it's not so much different. It's what he's doing with his swing that's different. People forget that he was a somewhat aggressive swinger, struggled with pitches in the zone a little bit, and also that he had a ground ball issue. All the way dating back to 2022 in the minors. People forget about that because his results were so good. And, I think even for me, and I was pretty critical at the time of the Cardinals breaking camp with him in 2023. I thought that was a worse thing for him. But even last year, at the start of the year, the difference between now and then is that the grounders that he hit found holes. And this year it didn't. And he was striking out a little bit more. I don't think the swings change. I think the difference is he's trying to do too much instead of just when you watched him at Springfield in 2022, how many times did you see him go to the opposite field gap? I mean, I feel like that was his power alley. He would be able to take that inside pitch and just fight it off a liner to the oppo gap. Sometimes you get a little bit more on it. You get a double out of an opposite field hit, even a pitch on his hands or a pitch outside. And that's gone from his game. So my guess is he understands that hitting the ball pull side is where he's going to make his money. And I don't mean like he's thinking about making money. I just mean that as a very tongue-in-cheek term. And so I think he's trying to do damage in the air, trying to put it over the fence, trying to get doubles, trying to slug the ball. And I think he's changed the mentality of the hitter that he is. And I think that's what we're seeing. I don't think he needs to go down there and work on the hip hinge or stepping out or getting good pitches to hit. I just think he needs to work on staying inside of the ball, as Albert Pujols used to say, and letting the ball and the barrel of the bat dictate the type of contact he's going to have instead of the opposite way where he's trying to make the ball and the bat, he's dictating what kind of contact is going to happen.
Right. I think the last thing I'll add is he opened up more and more and more since he's been up. He really seems like the kind of guy with a natural swing path that shouldn't be that far open. If that slider was killing him before he went down and when he really opened up, it was like a ghost town, the entire bottom left quadrant of the zone. So that
keep in
speaking
mind
what you're saying.
Sometimes we also get caught up in pre-swing setup a little too much. You know, it's that final load. You want to see where his body is for that final load. Like, yeah, sure, he opened up and he's wider, but he also got his feet a little bit closer together. But for the most part, when he goes to load, everything gets pretty well where it was last year and in 2022. So
Yeah.
the preload stuff is all comfort, right? Like, it's just like Gary Sheffield wagging the bat or
It's Ivan Herrera holding it out this far.
And Mason
exactly.
Wynn's feet are right next to each other. He says he wants to feel like he's pitching.
Yeah.
That foot kind of just explodes towards.
You get the Craig Counsell too. I remember that. Yeah. Oh gosh, that was awful.
Yeah, so it's
that's a good point. Okay.
Yeah, so it just he's definitely still a little bit more opened up than he was when he got to the preload point, which is again the point that really matters. But it's not so much different. And my guess is that is in an effort to just get a little bit more power instead of, like you said, just letting, like we have talked already, just letting the bat do what the bat does to the ball.
Yeah, it's kind of like a similar thing to like what we've seen Gorman struggle with a little bit this year. He's got so much natural power anyway. He doesn't need to like do all these extra load ups or strides or change anything at all. Just get the bat.
The toe tap's when you hit that bomb. The toe tap.
Yeah. That's one guy who just needs to calm down too. Like, yeah. So you have to understand, like, I've been watching these guys for so long. Like, the single A version. Now, keep in mind that this would have been before minor league contraction, which means that Peoria was the low A team, not the high A team. And I remember watching him in Peoria and just like swinging at everything, getting beat by fastballs up. I remember watching him swing at pitches that would hit the dirt in front of home plate, breaking pitches from lefties and righties. Like, he looked terrible. Bias. He had a Javi Baez to him. That's a great like comparison for comparison's sake. And then 2020 happened. He come back in 2021. He's in Double-A. He gets off to a terrible start, then gets super hot. And it's just like he's always toying. He's always toying with his lower half, always toying with his upper half. Even when he hits a ball hard, he'll change. When he starts struggling a little bit, he changes even more. Like, that's just a person who needs to, all right, is a toe tap working? Even if it doesn't, even if I'm not having results, I'm just going to stick with it, because he doesn't stick with it. And it's not just the toe tap, it's the big leg kick. Sometimes that works for him, and it'll work for him for a little bit. And then he'll go to that toe tap on 2 strikes, and it'll throw off his entire swing, because it's not his swing, it's his brain.
Yep. And it's funny you say that too, because I was thinking about that also, because it keeps changing his stance and his loadout and like the tap and the stride. And it reminds me, like, we're going back about 10 years, like Matt Holliday, when before he got traded to Cardinals, he had the big leg kick with Colorado, worked really well for him. And then he went to the A's and they had him change it. It's like, no, don't do that. It's going to mess up your time. And then he came back to the Cardinals and he readapted to the big leg kick and he found success again. Because like, I remember when we traded for him, it was a buy low because he was struggling, which worked out great. Of course, he's red jacket, but I mean, yeah, it's a very similar analysis with Gorman, and it's cool that you brought that up because it's something I was thinking too. Because Gorman is the guy that I think is going to be like a middle order bat for us for like the next 10 years.
Right.
So
his swing doesn't.
Go ahead.
You finish. Sorry. No, I was just saying, but his swing doesn't profile as a type of swing that you could have the two strike toe taps kind of swing. He has a really big swing. It's a kind of opens up. It's kind of just a big follow through. Whenever he does a toe tap, like you said, it's a completely different kind of swing altogether. He just doesn't profile as that kind of hitter to me anyways. Even with 2 strikes, I want that guy to take, his 2-0 swing.
Yeah. All right. I'm being
agree.
summoned, boys. I hate to cut this short, but I need to go.
You're fine.
We appreciate you a lot being on here with us, Kyle. We got a lot of really good analysis, so it's been super fun. Hopefully, maybe in the future you could do this with us again. You can meet Trevor.
Awesome.
Like, any last things you want to plug, or like Kyle Reis?
And add your Twitter at the end as well.
I'm not really interested in having a following, so you don't have to worry about any of that. I just like talking baseball with cool people. But the 2 things I like to plug, other than anything that C70 Daniel Shoptaw does at whatever website he's writing for or podcasting, is follow Blake Newberry, who writes about prospects for the Cardinal Nation and Viva Albertos. He does incredible work. And then our boy Kareem, who writes for Redbird Rants. Follow them. Support those publications, those online publications. Maybe not Redbird Rants because that's a weird place, but definitely Kareem stuff on Redbird Rants. And then also, again, just the Cardinal Nation with Brian Walton and Blake Newberry, and Viva Alberto's Blake there. You know, I want us to be able to support other people as best I can. So if we can do that for them, then follow them, support them. That would mean a lot to me.
Yep, those are two of my follows on Twitter as well. I get a lot of my minor league prospect stuff from them. It's hard to find good stuff, and they definitely provide it. Any last thoughts from you, Zach?
I just love the insight from you, Kyle. So I really appreciate you being on and kind of giving us, stuff that we are not able to really see on a lot of these guys. We see the numbers, but you gave us a lot of really good stuff. So I appreciate you being on.
My pleasure, guys. Thanks for having me. It was an honor and a blast.
Yeah, we appreciate you being on. It was a lot of fun. So hopefully we can do this again soon. That being said, thanks for joining us again on another episode of Birds on a Blue Note. I hope to see you soon. Like and subscribe.